Hello, everyone, and welcome to this beautiful Wisdom Circle hosted by Sacred You. My name is Christ May, and I am so honored to be part of this community. And of course, to introduce you to our topic today, which is
Hello,
embracing
everyone,
your
and
shadow for
welcome
deeper
to the
healing, transformation, and release. It is such a gift to gather in this space today to explore such an important topic, and our facilitator today is the wonderful Raleigh Allaire, together with the incredible women in the circle from all over the world. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us today. So, Raleigh, the space is now yours. I'll see you at the end, everyone. Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
Chris,
Chrisley.
for joining us and being part of our conversations today. So I am Gigodo Migunkwe, which means talking feather woman, and I am from a small community in northeastern Ontario, Canada. And I am a grandmother of five incredible little humans. Two of which are my blood humans, and so they are which we live with, and I have two adult boys, and so I really enjoy being able to be and have that energy. So I work with women with anxiety who have working with the cycles of the moon, as well as other healing modalities that I refer to as moon medicine. And so I'm really looking forward to having this conversation about the Scorpio season. And so we'll just allow everybody to be able to share a little bit about who they are and where they're from, and a little bit about who you are and what you do. So Abby, do you want to start?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here. I always enjoy these conversations. I am Abby Teixeira. I am located in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, also known as Treaty 6 territory. I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I'm a trauma recovery coach, and a mentor. And most importantly, I'm a mama for four beautiful little beings that have chosen me to be the cycle breaker in our family and our lineage. And that's what I work with. I work with other women and femmes who are the healers, the wisdom keepers, the cycle breakers. And my work just blends some trauma-informed coaching, ancestral wisdom, as well as feminine leadership to really help guide these incredible women into their great work in the world and create the ripple effects. So very, very honored to be here, and thank you.
Beautiful, thank you. So Carney, what about you?
Gosh, I'm Carney Kamala, complex trauma therapist and a Reiki master. I also work as a soul whisperer and a shadow whisperer. And most of my work revolves around holding space for people to heal the ancestral wounds of being the black sheep in the family. And yeah, I've got four amazing kids and six grandchildren.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, and I'm in Australia.
Beautiful. Thanks so much. And Tawana?
Hello, everyone. I'm Tawana Yvette, also known as Thunderbird Rising Kauai in my native language. That means hello. I am a high priestess, a shaman, a trauma recovery facilitator, and a spiritual guide. And I help women go from their trauma to their purpose, just like these other beautiful women, kind of in similar ways, through coaching, through ancestral wisdom and guidance, through my cheat codes of being a medium, and through shamanism. So thank you so much for having me here today. It's always an honor to speak on in these wisdom circles and panel discussions. And I always love when Rolly is leading them. So
Thank you. So, so for some, this style of conversation is a little new. And so, one of the things that I'm going to do is invite you to popcorn style, just based on how being able to just kind of add into the conversation. We were talking about it just before coming on, that we're used to having like the set questions and where things are kind of going. And I really love these discussions. And so I just hosted a women's retreat, and we actually got to have that opportunity of being able to do many sharing circles and lots of conversations happening back and forth. And so so I think that this is a great way for me to be able to kind of return back to, like, this is my first official work thing after since the retreat. So this is a beautiful way of being able to honor that energy that I was able to carry forward with the ladies that that moved into this current new moon that we are recording into, depending on when it is that you're watching. We had a new moon for those of us in Canada, and the US. We had our new moon in on Tuesday. Not sure whether or not it was Tuesday or Wednesday for those of you in Australia, but it was just sometime this week. But yeah, so that's yeah, so we're just kind of moving into that energy, but we've moved into this Scorpio energy. So Scorpio is that water energy of being able to like tap into those things that we just kind of leave in the background. So like those shadows that we, that shadow energy of things that we are just kind of like, oh, I'm not gonna deal with that right now. But Scorpio just kind of brings in that energy of like it rears its ugly head of things that we really didn't want to necessarily have to deal with. And when it's time and when it's ready, it brings up the things that we really need to tackle, and we need to tap into it. But one of the things that I really like about the Scorpio energy is it's also very gentle. So like, yes, it's kind of like it steps in there and it's like stings you when things kind of come up. But at the same time, it also is very, because of that water energy, is very compassionate and very forgiving, and allows us to be able to kind of move through that. And so with this energy, one of the questions that I have for you is like, where do you see that energy coming forward in your own life, or in the lives of the women that you work with? So who wants to start?
Well, I'll start.
Perfect.
I'm doing this. For me, I'll go personal. It's always kind of interesting because my reality checks around what needs to be worked through, the shadow self coming up, whether it's the unseen part of self, or a blind spot that both myself and other people in my world are completely unaware of. They always seem to come up when I'm in a really chilled space. So it'll be when I'm driving the car, when I'm in the shower, or when I'm on the toilet, when I don't have paper around me, when I don't have a phone to be able to access and take some notes. But they come in kind of really interesting awarenesses. I'll just hear a name, or I'll just have a sensation in my body, and then take the time later to go into the body and say, okay, what was that about? I had a big stab in the back for the last 2 days, and I've been sitting with it trying to work out what was going on. And it hit me this morning as I was driving the car, what that was in relation to. And so it actually still felt like I had a knife in the back. And so I just, as I was driving along, I just dissolved the knife and then went home and had some conversations around it. So yeah, for me, it's nearly always clairsentient or claircognizance, but there'll be some clairaudience in there as well.
So for people who don't know clairs, do you want to explain a little bit about what those are? Because we may have somebody that's watching going like, what is she talking about?
That woman on about. Yeah. So our clairs are our psychic gifts, and the main four are clairvoyance, which is clear sight. And so that can either be that you see things spiritually, or things kind of become very visual for you. So it might be in the dream state. Things are very obviously put together. It could also, for me, so I have a degree of that, but it shows up in symbolism for me. Clairaudience is where you hear spirit, whether it be one of your guides, one of your ancestors, or just even your own higher self talking to you, but there'll be like a whispering in your head. You're not going mad. Claircognizance is like a download, sudden download where you just know something. For me, I find that nearly always happens when I'm in conversation with people and they're not being truthful. And I just go, oh, yes, that's not the truth. That's not the way it really is. But, you know, they've got a mask on at that period of time. Or the other one is clairsentience, where you'll feel something in your body. So that might be the awareness of, you know, stepping into a room and something just feels off. You don't know there's been an argument in the room beforehand, but you can just feel that something's not quite right. Or for me, what happens is I will actually feel stuff in my own physical body. So for me, the stab in the shoulder was like a stab in the back, and the awareness that there was something around feeling burdened that I needed to clear. It was on the right side, so it was on the male side. And as you know, once I started asking the questions around it, the answers came in thick and fast. I think the interesting thing is a lot of people ask questions in yes/no format, and they don't get as much information. Whereas if you ask an open-ended question, the information that's likely to come through will be a lot bigger. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks.
What about you, Tawana?
Can you repeat the question? I was listening
I
to
didn't
what
have it
Connie.
written down, so I don't know that I can actually repeat it exactly the way that it was.
Okay.
So,
Well,
so like
what
basically I was
Scorpio
asking about
season, the energy of Scorpio season coming in, what does that
Yeah.
mean for me?
Yeah.
Well, oddly enough, thank you. I had a seizure 3 days ago, so please forgive me. I for Scorpio season this year is interesting because I'm moving, and it's like rest, okay, now we gotta go. So that's how this week has been for me. I finished up my summit on Sunday, and it was rest, and then all of a sudden at like 4 o'clock today it was like it's go time. So like I started doing laundry, I ordered my space bags, I started putting stuff in bins, I started giving stuff away today, you know, just doing the moving thing, right? So I'm right now in a state of flow though. Which usually I fight that, and I struggle with it. And this time I'm not. This time I'm like, I don't care if I don't get back to the email today. It's okay. It'll be there tomorrow. And if my body needs to sleep till 2 o'clock, guess what? That's what we did. You know, the night after the summit. And I'm really just flowing with the energy. Scorpio season didn't hit me nearly as hard as it normally does. So I'm cruising along, I'm honoring my body. There's only one thing that has come up for me, and that was very, very minor. So it was easy to clear. It was easy to clear. And I, like Carney, can feel things in my body. So nothing's come up in my body, thank goodness. Because preparing for surgery and then moving 10 days later, yeah, that's a lot of fun. So I'm just in a rest and flow period.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you. And Abby, what about you?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the insights shared, and I just kind of wanted to go back to something that Carney was mentioning about questions. And I find that anytime that I'm in any kind of this intense type of energetically intense season, things are amplified for me personally. So anything I'm listening to, reading, talking, speaking, thinking is amplified. So that could be a good thing if it's good things, and it could be a bad thing if I'm kind of ruminating on the wrong things, right? Or just because things are amplified. Did they just feel more amplified for me? So things might stand out more, and I can tend to kind of beat myself up about things sometimes. And so I have to be very mindful, right? And instead of just kind of allowing to amplify those kind of negative thoughts, I just get really curious, and feels like I talk about this a lot because this has been very my learning edges in the last and growth edges in the last I think probably this year for sure. And it has just been around replacing curiosity with a lot of different things. And, when I'm feeling irritated or somebody's triggering me or someone said something that bothered me, instead of like, yeah, just looking too deeply into it and like making up stories and all sorts of things, I just get curious and I'm just like, like why did that affect me this way, or like, and it's really interesting what will come up, right? And it's usually the shadows. It's usually the shadows that come up that are wanting to be looked at, and seen. And when you're more self-aware, when you're more present, when you're more, yeah, connected to yourself, I find that the shadows just come up a lot more because you're no longer distracted, you're no longer numbing from them, all of those kind of things. And so then you're put with the decision whether you're going to actually, navigate them and get curious and look into them or continue to kind of push them aside and get irritated about them and all that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, it's interesting because my moon is in Scorpio, so I'm quite familiar with the energy. And I always think of it as just this watery emotional sign, just like really tender but fierce at the same time, because emotions can be,
Yeah.
fierce and intense and all that kind of stuff. So, I love playing around with whatever energies come my way. There are things that we can't control. So I like to be informed and know that, okay, so maybe this is why, like, because it never fails, for example, Mercury retrograde and something will happen to my laptop, right? And like all sorts of different things happening. And I'm just like, why is this happening? And it's like, oh, yes, I know why. So similarly, energetic collective energies are yeah, they're just kind of like a forecast, right? Like you just look at it and just like, okay, good to know that, it's going to be raining today, so I need to wear a raincoat kind of thing, right? And so similarly with our energies, we just learn that, okay, so I'm really going to need to lean into curiosity during this season and be very gentle with myself and mindful to the experiences that I'm having. So yeah, thank you.
I love that. And so so that kind of leads into and I love the shares that you guys have actually provided. And so kind of taking back into where the with the women's retreat is one of the questions that I had asked the women when we were actually coming in and doing one of our final circles was and we were so it was a group of 16 women. And so within the group of 16 women, we had spent the entire weekend together. And but one of the things that the common theme within all the women as they were sharing throughout the rest of the weekend before Sunday was that it's like all of the things that like all those expectations that we have for the people around us, but we don't always tell them what it is that we need and things like that. But because they are caregivers and they're always constantly taking or they're constantly giving, the question that I had asked them was, what is it that you are taking from each? And they had to go around to each one of the women and share what is it that they are taking from the women. And then the very first person kind of went, I can't take, like, what do you mean? I can't take from them. And it's like, but the exercise was specifically about like, what is it that they're taking from them? So some of them were taking wisdom. Some of them were wanting to take on somebody else's pain. Somebody was wanting to take on like all these different things that were going on. And so, but like being able to like taking, those experiences and the things that they actually were able to bring to light and things like that. And I really think that this shadow season, this Scorpio season allows us to be able to actually bring that forward. Well, then today when we were so then today was just like I was just getting some things done and whatever. And but one of the things that I had actually just happened to open up Facebook, so I'm like, okay, I'm just taking a break. And so then I had opened up Facebook, and Facebook had a post that they were talking about. So within our culture, we have our elders who come and they provide teachings, and that's their role and that's their giving. And so oftentimes we hear people say, well, we shouldn't be paying for that, and it's like, but one of the things that they actually talked about in this particular post was that our elders and our wisdom keepers give from their own knowledge and give from their parts of themselves. And as a healer, they give parts of them in order for them to be able to help you heal parts of them, like they lose parts of them, their own self. And so within the culture and within the traditions that is that we don't know how long or how much that they've taken, like that you've taken from them until things have actually come on. Like, did you take 1 day away from them? Did you take 3 years from them? Like, we don't really know. And so, but one of the things is that in the past, people would actually come with so many gifts for the healer that you would actually go and meet with them from. And so, like, although the women were not coming from that perspective of like giving in that perspective, but I just wanted them to think about like how much do they actually give to the people around them, and how does that kind of play in and to what it is that they're doing. So definitely not comparing to one of our elders, like that's definitely not but I wanted them to kind of think through of all the things that we give. So as women, we're women around this table, and so like how much do we actually give to others and then get feeling frustrated or disappointed because somebody didn't recognize that I was tired today, or that I just really needed a hug today, or that but we didn't vocalize it, or we didn't tell. And so like that's kind of within that whole part of this shadow season of this, and I keep saying shadow season because that's what I refer to as Scorpio. So for anybody who isn't doesn't follow that, is like that this is the season of us really kind of looking within and figuring out where we need to go and what do we need to do before we actually move into that next level of healing and understanding for ourselves. And so, but it also brings forward, like, so that this conversation also brings forward to that when we're actually moving through these seasons, is where do we bring in that self-love and that self-healing and that self-care and that and that the parts of us that really need to have that nurturing as we're going through. So one of the things that Abby said, she talked about how this really is like the emotions are like can be very calming, and because it's like that water nice and calm, but then when you actually look at the water when the winds are blowing and there's lots of waves and there's all the like it becomes like those emotions, right? So, and that's why emotions are tied into our water, like into the water sign, because of how things shift. So we need to have like, so as we're healing and as we're moving through these things, we also need to have like that buffer or that security of how do we bring in that parts of things. So so again, just whoever, and I'm not going to go back around as well. I just really want to have a conversation. So like if somebody says something, it's like, oh yeah, that reminds me of something, like just kind of like raise your hand so that you can kind of chime in to that part of it, because I think that part is really important. So who wants to start with like, is there anything that triggered, or that that you had something that you wanted to share about that?
Yeah, I can share. Well, it's fresh, I guess. You said so many good things in there, and I guess something that kind of sparked for me is just even in the work that I do with the women that I work with and the transformational kind of coaching that we do, when we find out and look at, kind of these beliefs and these like for, inner barriers, like we like to call it in the coaching industry. What we figure out is that, oftentimes they do stem from childhood, right? Like there was something happened in childhood where you picked up for this reason, I'll just talk about the I'm not enough pattern, right? Where anything and everything I do is just not enough. So therefore, what that translates to in adulthood is overgiving, right? Where we're giving and giving and giving to have that worthiness and that enoughness. And then what can happen commonly with overgivers is that they do begin to develop resentment towards others in their lives, right? Because it feels like no matter how much they give and give and give, they're not getting it back. And they're not telling anyone what it is that they need in return or anything like that for starters, and if somebody does want to reciprocate something, there's like this guard up, right? Of like, oh no, no, I'm okay. No, like it's okay. Like, what about you? Like, let me do this for you. And like it's just so much easier to just focus on the other person rather than yourself, right? And get into that uncomfortable situation of having to voice and presence your needs. For many of us, it wasn't even safe to do that as children, right? We weren't safe to share what it is that we needed, right? And if we did share it, it wasn't given to us, right? Because our parents were in survival, they were in their, trauma and all that kind of stuff, right? For many of us. And so that follows into that pattern of overgiving and not enoughness, and then burnout, which will eventually end up happening. And so it's definitely something that is very difficult to break. It's a pattern that's very difficult to break. But once you start seeing it in your own life and how it plays out, the awareness is key. You start with that, right? And then you're able to then kind of catch yourself when you're falling back into these patterns, and be able to kind of, yeah, just like almost like interrupt it, right? So that you can start to then break it over time, right? And somebody that I know in my life who has very much been working on this pattern himself has been my husband, my partner, where he had very much of that pattern of overgiving and, doing too much and all of that kind of stuff. And then he'd be resentful. And what the funny thing is that when you are in that pattern, you start to do things that the other person doesn't even need. Like it's just like you're going over and above and you're doing these things that the other person, first of all, didn't tell you they needed, nor do they actually need, right? And so if you just simply like presence yourself and ask, like, like, what can I do for you? Or how can I help you with this? You'd be surprised what the different kind of response that you're going to get. And then that's when you're able to kind of have conversations, to be able to like, okay, well, what it looks like for me and my husband now is like, like, outright saying like, is this helpful? I'm going to go out, I'm going to do this. Like, would that be helpful? I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. So I'm also going to be running an errand later on. And I was thinking of doing this. What are your thoughts on that? Right. And like, just have this dialogue with each other, but it takes practice, it takes commitment, and you need to be able to be safe in those environments, right? To be able to presence yourself, right? If you're in an abusive relationship and you're dealing with somebody who's narcissistic, for example, it can be very difficult for you, somebody that has a not enough pattern, to be able to actually have a really conducive conversation about something like this, with someone like that. So obviously there's circumstances that need to be in play, and safety for sure is key to be able to kind of have that kind of conversation.
Beautiful. Abby, you had actually, I mean, Carney, you had actually raised your hand just as Abby was, so did you want to like kind of jump in and
Kind of funny because I felt like if I go again, like I'm in the same pattern, am I allowed to do that?
absolutely.
So there was a part of me that went, oh, phew, Abby said something, so I'm okay now. Now I'm following the process. Have I got a people pleaser or what? Yeah, so kind of interesting because then of course Abby's conversation sparked a whole heap more. I've been having lots of conversations with people around the Libra new moon, which we've just gone through, and around balance and the concept of give and take, and how we will often overgive, but we don't, allow the reciprocation of receiving at the same time. And one of the things that I've noticed is that, and it does tie into the unconscious core beliefs that we have from childhood, whether they, be around, not being enough, or not being visible, or not being recognized or appreciated, or whatever the unconscious core belief is. And generally they're developed between the age of 0 and 6, when it's emotional language, energy, that's our first language, and we're interpreting. But one of the things I've noticed is that if you flip the script on your relationships, then everything changes. So when I'm working with people, I notice that the overgivers generally are doing that to be seen, to be noticed, to be validated, to be present. They're buying into a soul hole they had from childhood. And most of the time, their connection with the divine isn't very strong initially. And because I work with HypnoScript, that's a really big part of the work that I do. So my first relationship is always to talk with people about their connection to the divine, and because then you're plugging into that big battery source that's going to keep you charged. The second thing we talk about is filling our own cup, and then it's everybody else comes last, because when your cup's full to overflowing, you've actually got enough to give. But what's interesting, I've been talking lots about martyrdom with people of late, because that seems to be a lot of the people, as I've been doing that work myself around that, I seem to be drawing in a lot of the people who are, understanding that vibration. And I think it's always really interesting to have a look at who you're drawing into your life and who's triggering you, because there is such a strong mirror reflection of what's going on in someone else is also something that you either aren't having a look at, or you're avoiding, or it might even be a blind spot that you're completely unaware of. But one thing that hit me this morning, like when you go down rabbit holes, it's amazing what the universe starts throwing your way. And this morning I was watching an exercise on Facebook. this man who's just suddenly appeared on my screen. And I've been doing somatic yoga workouts to try and release some of the energy blocks in my body. And this man's just suddenly appeared. Now, I haven't had any conversations around it, but, Big Brother often knows. But one of the things that he was talking about is when you want to allow yourself to receive more, you lift your arm and you pat under your armpit 30 times on both sides. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh gosh, that makes so much sense, because you're activating your lymphatic nervous system, which is your emotional flow within your body. So of course, if there's more flow within your body, you're going to be able to receive, more easily. So yeah, I just think it's really interesting the way those synchronicities.
Let's all do that.
Yeah, I did it this morning and I just felt incredibly calm afterwards. It was a really nice experience. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. Tawana, you were like nodding profusely while both ladies were talking. So
Yes,
we're
yes.
yeah.
I can resonate with some things both of them said. First of all, yes, I would agree with when, the natural is patterned after the spiritual, right? So I had a near fatal reaction to a seizure medication last year this time that like completely shut down my lymphatic system. So I was retaining 60 pounds of water, which I gained in 5 days. And I've had a heck of a time losing it. I've been going from specialist to specialist to specialist. My natural, I started seeing, she actually is part of Sacred You, Charlotte Mitchell, is an herbalist, and she studied herbs in Asia, and she's finally got my body releasing the water.
Yes.
Once that happened, I was able to receive the gift that the person who wanted to help me move gave me. Before that, I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm good. I'll figure it out. Da, 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 da. But it's funny. It didn't click until you said it, Carney, how it once that system started to operate in the right way, I was like, okay, thank you. And since then, everything has been, when people have like one of my best friends, I can't drive 14 hours. And so I rented a Suburban, and she's like, T, I'll drive if you need me to. Okay, thank you. I'll book your plane ticket. Everything has been okay, thank you. And it's not like I nobody here probably knows who Neo is, but Neo sings this song, Miss Independent. And that used to be my jam, because it was like, Miss Independent. Yep, that was me. I would be riding out to it in my car when I used to drive all the time. But I don't want to be Miss Independent anymore.
Mhm.
I want to be in flow, just like my system is starting to flow again. I want to be in flow. And whatever that means, that's what I want. So I'm nodding because yes, I agree with these ladies. Like, yes, we do get these messages. Yes, we get these downloads, these things, these shadow aspects of ourselves do come up. I did just graduate a client. Thank heavens she's graduated, because if she's not the old me, it was like my mother was showing me, oh, this is what you used to be like. And I'm like, oh God, get this person away from me, please, for the love of God. I used to dread our meetings, but I always showed up professional with a smile and things like that. But I was like, oh my God, that was me. Ew. Oh no. We can't do that, because it was, just having to be liked and having to be seen and always, just always on and always just Oh yes, I did that, and yes, I did this, and yes, I wrote that down in my journal, and yes, I know this and I know that, and I finally got to the point to where it was like, why'd you hire me? That's exactly what I said, with a smile. I said, "Can I ask you a question?" "Yes." "Why'd you hire me?"
Mm.
"Well, what do you mean? I need a coach." "Well, you know everything. So why'd you hire me?" And I was being serious. I wasn't even trying to be facetious, but it was then that my mother said, "That was you. We just wanted to show you what you came from." And I was like, "Ooh, I wasn't that wasn't cute." Like, that behavior, that needed to be seen, that need to be heard, that need for, "Hey, look at me." Ooh, no, we don't do that anymore. Like they say in Black Panther, we don't do that here. Um, Even though I am seen everywhere, it's not, I don't have a need to put forward. So, what happened for me in this Scorpio season, first time ever, was I got to see my old patterns in action.
I love that.
And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm never going back there. That's ooh. No, I don't like that. No. It's not cute." So, I have enjoyed receiving. I've 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 never said yes, thank you so much in my life. And little Tawana isn't even screaming, "No, we can do it on our own." Even she's kind of settled down, and is like, "Thank you. Yes, thank you. I appreciate you. I'll do this. I'll book your ticket. I'll do this." I had I have friends in Florida where I'm moving to, and they're like, "Oh, don't buy this and don't buy that because we'll take you around when you get here to buy it. If you buy it new, it's more expensive. There's a lot of outlets and stuff." And my friend's husband is, he's like, "I'll check everything out for you and stuff." And I'm like, "Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll buy you dinner. Thank you." So for me, it's been them showing me what I used to be like, and now me learning how to flow and actually receiving with gratitude from others. And it's just, stuff is just coming out of nowhere. I went to rip up an envelope the other day, and my mother said, "No, stop." Because the insurance company I have, they just send books, and I know I've been to the doctor, and I know how much I paid, and I know how much it cost. I don't need the book. It's like CVS giving you a toilet paper worth of receipts.
Yep.
um and I opened it and it was a check. I'm like,
Yep.
where did this come from? And it was because there was a breach of information. So I got a couple of $100 out of it. I was like, "Oh, I like this flow stuff. This is fun. I can do this. I can receive. I can do this. I'm good. I like this." So I hate that I'm having the opposite experience, but then I don't hate that I'm having the opposite experience than everyone else right now. Because I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying resting. I'm enjoying receiving. These are two things that I've never done in my life.
Yep. And I love that. I love how that is something that you're actually able to recognize and being able to see that. And so, so like through the conversations that each of us have already had, is there something else that you're like, oh yeah, I wanted to add to that? Or, so like from anyone, like, so is there anything that you're like, oh yeah, I want to kind of touch on that. So I'm just going to leave that to either one of you.
Abby talking about the shadows.
Mm.
The shadows coming up,
Yeah.
and definitely Carney talking about feeling the things in your body, like the stab in the back. I had an ex-best friend who did some treacherous things a couple of years ago, and I remember my whole back hurting. Like I have back pain from a lifelong injury, but um that stuff is real, and it happened this time of the year 2 years ago,
So
and I felt it in my body. Yeah.
now, Abby, you're like nodding profusely. Like, do you want to share? Is there something else that you'd like to add to that?
Um, This is, yeah, just I mean, anytime people talk about it's funny because for me, shadow work is like an ongoing thing, right? It's not like something that I'm just like, okay, I've done that now and move on and I never have to look at it again. It's just like it's kind of like the waves of the sea that sometimes, is a season for me to look at certain shadows in my life, and sometimes I'm in a season of also openness and receiving. And and sometimes it's both, right? I'm doing shadow work and I'm also open to receiving more so than anything support, which is something that is very difficult for many of us to receive is support and reach out. I always laugh that, when I'm working with clients, one of the things that I always remind them at the end of our calls is like, I'm here for you and you can reach out. And I will never get tired of, like really drilling it, how important it is to reach out for support, right? When we're going through difficult times and when we're going through good times, like something that a shadow of mine that I've looked at in the past is, kind of how it was very difficult for me to reach out when really good things were happening in my life because I almost felt like I couldn't like I don't know, I was just very protective around that kind of stuff. It was a big block for me, where I felt very like I didn't have like certain people that I would call and be like, "Oh, I did this and like this is amazing that happened." My only person that I would really be like that with is my husband because he's always around. And so, I him and stuff, right? But it was really noticing how certain ways, like certain like how that kind of manifests for me in certain different ways. And yeah, and I believe that when we are like something that I've been feeling lately in the energy is this like immense urge to like declutter. So like, get rid of old clothes, like get rid of like, piles that are here and piles that are there. I've just been in a really big mood for the past month of kind of doing that little by little, not to overwhelm myself. And I noticed that, one of the things that I feel is a lot more like it just feels like a weight has been lifted and there's more spaciousness, more spaciousness to receive. And so I share that even with my kids, when they're getting new toys or they're getting a new gift and they already have in like an insane amount of stuff, And I'm like, how about we get rid of a couple of things, that you're bringing in something new. So now let's get rid of a couple of things so that, you're making space for this. So there's not like overcrowding and like all of that kind of stuff. And I feel like in life, decluttering, we can do that energetically, as well as physically, right? Decluttering of the things that like are weighing you down, like maybe problems that aren't even yours, to be carrying so that you can make space to receive the things that are actually for you, right? And
Yeah.
like you can actually focus on the things that, are going to fill your cup and all of that kind of stuff and move you ahead, right? Rather than being weighed down and carrying a bunch of other stuff that isn't even yours to carry. So yeah, so those are some of the things that kind of came up as I was listening to everyone share.
Well, and like just to kind of add to what it is that you just said about like that things that we carry that don't belong to us. And so like I said, when we actually had done that circle of having everybody like, what are you taking from the person? And people were taking on the other people's pain. They were taking on the other people's burdens. And it's like was against what it is that we've been trying to do this entire weekend of like trying to recoup the things that we've given away, and that we've given away. to like, and now what you're taking is somebody else's battle and somebody else's burdens. So being able to provide them support. So like when I went around the room and I said that there were certain people that I was not taking from simply because they didn't have anything to give at that point from an energetic perspective, but I would hold them. Right. So I would hold space for them as they move through their journey so that the next opportunity that we had, we would be able to take. I would be able to take a little bit of what they were able to, but I didn't want to carry their burdens. I didn't want to carry their pain. Whereas other women, and like, again, there's no right and wrong way when we're sharing or when we're experiencing that, but it just goes back to that whole mindset that you were talking about, Abby, of like making room and holding on to that stuff that's not ours, and being able to shake it off and say like, okay, like I've listened and I'm here and I'm holding space and I'm holding, but holding space is different than taking on the burdens and carrying that forward. And Carney, I'm like, I can see you like
Yeah, I've got
energetically going,
stuff to
yeah,
add.
I want to add to that. So
Yeah.
please.
It's just really interesting, I think, because one of the things that really hit me as you were talking is how deep that programming is. Like you've run a whole weekend on the absolute antithesis of that,
Yep.
theory, and yet people's core beliefs are so strongly ingrained that that's the default that that's immediately gone to. That's really interesting. The other thing I want to talk about is something completely different, and that's Jung's golden shadow, which we haven't hit on. And so that's still the shadow part of ourselves, but it's the shadow part that we often don't allow our power and potential to shine, and we suppress that to other people. And so the truth of our soul's divine coding doesn't come, out, and it's not obvious to people. And I've had a couple of instances where I've begun in my work of hypnoscript, because I do my own hypnoscripts as well. One of the processes to become the curious observer of self. And I've noticed that there is a part of me that protects me from things that I wasn't aware of before. So I'm coming up to my 2-year anniversary of where the mixing beaters and I had a battle. I was baking banana cake and my hair got caught in the beaters, and the beaters spun around and whacked me in the head, should have taken me out. As they were coming towards my face, I actually heard in my own head, move your head, you're going to be safe. And I moved just a fraction, that meant that the beaters missed my eyes. And so I kind of went, whoa, everybody else was aghast because I had this great big bloody pile on my face. Everybody else was aghast at what had happened. And I'm sitting there celebrating, going, oh my gosh, the divine part of myself just protected me. How amazing is that? They all thought I was a complete nutcase, I might add. But I had it happen recently. I'd been doing a meditation where a cloud had been a safe space, and a journey in a cloud had been a safe space. And I had a big fall at my son's work, and I flew through the air about 3.5 meters. And the last couple of falls I've had are broken bones. And as I was lying there on the floor in front of this entire group of onlookers, all trying to help me up, I heard in my head, it's okay, you're safe. And what I felt like was that I'd physically hit the deck, but emotionally I'd fallen into a cloud. And it was just such a curious awareness to know that there is this part of my body that is trying to protect me, that, is looking out for me. It's got my back. And as long as I can, stay connected to it and keep my eye on that super conscious connection with it, that I'm going to be okay anyway. Things that might appear to be unsafe, I'll make them through. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I keep coming back to the retreat just because it's like the most prevalent of the things that were actually happening. But just to kind of tie into what it is that all of you have said, is that whole piece of listening and hearing our guides and hearing the messages that are there, that we we tend to block, and we tend to like not pay attention to, and we tend to not have these connections. And so when I went out to the retreat this time, is my family was supposed to come with me on the Friday and over the course of the weekend, because it was a long weekend, Thanksgiving for us. And so it was like I just wanted to be able to share with them the space that I had and the energy that I had, and how beautiful it is, and why do I keep going back out there and doing these things with the women. Not that I was going to do those things with my family, because they definitely would not have been open to that. But just being able to just share in that experience and share in that space, and things just they weren't coming. And so it was like, I'm going anyway. I've already paid for this space, I'm going anyway. And I'm just going to go and enjoy this space by myself. I brought the dog, and so the dog and I went out. I brought the satellite because I thought, well, I'd be able to do a little bit of work while I'm out there. Well, spirit and the divine had actually worked with me. So as much as I didn't think that was like helpful, it was like I still wanted to be able to get some things, but it didn't. There was some technology issues, there was some issues with being able to stay connected with the power grid and all those things. And it was like, so I had many evenings that like I didn't have any lights because the lights didn't come on, they had to change batteries, there was some solar issues, and so all these different things that were actually going on. And so I was literally in the dark for a good part of the week, while like the evenings came along, because it gets dark pretty darn fast when we're actually moving into a new moon, and middle of nowhere where there's no lights. Just that energy of like just being in that dark space, and really having to like have some time to be able to think, because I can't get connected to technology. I'm like sitting by candlelight trying to read trying to read a book or a journal or whatever. But it was like I really had to kind of like be in within myself to really be paying attention to like what it is that was happening. And so that technology piece was that I really needed to just really break free and have that disconnect. And even though I had some things that were pressing that I needed to do, that I wanted to do, and a lot of it wasn't even things that I needed to do, because I had already kind of disconnected from that week, but it was like things that I wanted to be able to do some research on, and I wanted to be able to kind of figure out. But it was like really having that space of being in that energy. And so I've been going out there for I don't even know how many years, like for many, many years, hosting these retreats out there. And but I have never it's in the country, like I'm expecting that there's other animals and whatever, but I am deathly afraid of mice. And so here I am by myself. The Wednesday, mice decided that they were coming in that night. And so like I'm sure that they were probably in there before, and I just didn't notice them or didn't hear them or whatever, but it was getting colder and all that kind of thing. So like that night, like on Wednesday night, it was like, okay, I'm staying in the bed, I'm not moving anywhere, because like I'm literally in the dark. And if I had to go pee, it was like, Lizzie, come with me. And so like I would wake Lizzie up and make her walk with me to the bathroom at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And so, but they ended up catching, so then the next night they set some traps for me, and like dead or alive, I can't handle them. And so, but I really needed to reflect on like, okay, like all these years, like where, like, and now I've got like all these mice that are coming in, and logically I know, so cognitively from my ego, like I know that it's because it's fall, and it's getting colder, and like the weather had shifted from having some really nice, really warm weather to like we had a cold front that came in, and so then like I know logically where the mice came from or why they came, but from that spiritual, that connection of like, what are the messages? Like, why are these mice coming forward? And it was really about being able to pay attention to the detail, really being able to pay attention to some of the things that were going on. And some of the then things like some of the dynamics and some of the things that were going on were a little bit off compared to what my regular retreats are. And so it's like, hey, paying attention to some of the clues, paying attention to some of the things that are actually happening. And so like that really gave me a whole lot of a different perspective as to like, how am I going to do that, and how am I going to be able to bring that forward, and being able to pay attention to detail. And that is what I heard from all of you, right? So like, it's like just being able to listen and paying attention. So for those of you who are listening and in the Scorpio season, is like, just pay attention to what are some of the things that are happening, or Is there tech that's actually interfering? Is there something that's going on with your car that it's like, oh, I don't know what it is that's happening? Or like, what are some of those signs? What are some of those things that are actually going on? Why are you running into these blocks that are actually happening? And in those blocks, what are some of the patterns that we need to shift, or what are some of the patterns that we need to change? And yeah, so I can't believe that an hour has actually already gone past in our conversations. And I really love this like this way of us being able to have these conversations and being able to, like, as opposed to like these structured questions and have that, and like just kind of piggybacking on what somebody else has said, and it's like, yeah, I really relate to that, or anything like that. So I really thank you, ladies, for this opportunity of being able to share your wisdom, share your knowledge of what it is that's going on. And before Christ May comes back on, I just want to be able to have a second for you to be able to share what are some of the things that like what are some of the things that you are working on or that you're doing that you think that somebody who's listening to this might need to hear right now, of something that you can do to be able to help support them in this journey of transformation. Abby, we'll start with you.
Sure. So I'm actually, it's interesting. I'm in a season of sacred pause right now. But still doing plenty, behind the scenes, just in terms of like business and stuff. It's just really nurturing the clients that I currently have. And but I do have a pop-up workshop that I'm working on that I'm going to be doing next month in November. It's going to be on human design and leadership, and specifically how I weave that into my work with my clients, with my business, with myself, with my marriage, my kids. It's been a really big game changer. So I'm really excited about that. So you can sign up for my email newsletter. I don't spam. I only, write maybe one or two emails a month, and I let everybody know kind of all the what's up and coming and all of that kind of stuff in my beautiful little email community and events coming up in the future. So I know the link will be provided in the show notes.
Beautiful. Thanks, Abby. What about you, Carney?
Well, I was actually just having a giggle as you were talking about how much more fluid this flow of conversation is, because I'm like, we're talking about Scorpio season and here we are having a fluid conversation. So I thought that was really funny. You gotta love symbolism. I've got an evergreen program that I've just I'm putting together. Begins on the 4th of December. I've been running this program for 8 years now. It's on healing with the Christmas archangels, so 15 different archangels, and there's invocations and meditations with the pillar of light and affirmations, and it's really coming together well. I'm researching my technology because we've made better friends with each other over the last couple of months. We've have had a bit of a torturous relationship in the past. And other than that, my main work is in complex trauma. So I'm a STAR practitioner, which is a series of 8 hypnoscripts, and I've got 3 spaces available at the moment. That's it. Other than that, I've got a waiting list. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Carney. And what about you, Tawana?
Well, right now I have the VIP intensive that I'm offering, and that is where you get 6 to 8 hours with me. You get an AO health scan, a 31-page health report of all systems and how they're functioning and what you're allergic to and all the things. And then I do a shamanic clearing of your energy, and we do a mediumship read, which means I allow my body to be used by your ancestors or mine for your highest good, to receive the highest message for you. And then we've got follow-up after that. I've also got a half-day retreat coming up on November 22nd, which follows the summit, the Rise and Reclaim Integration retreat. And that's just a half day where we integrate a lot of the things the speakers were touching on and what I touched on during my summit this previous weekend. And last and never least, we have coming up on December, I'm looking at the calendar, the 6th of December, we begin Boundaries in the Body, Saying No Without Shame. That's an 8-week course, and I have 2 spaces open right now for individual trauma recovery facilitation and spiritual guidance.
Beautiful. Thanks, Tawana. And so, but you also host I
Yes,
can't
tribe.
a tribe. Thank you. There's the word. A tribe.
Yes, I
Sacred
am a Sacred You tribe leader. I host the Psychic Essence Collective, and we teach all things woo. Not just about being psychic, but usually when you're psychic, you're pretty woo. So we teach all things woo.
Yeah.
Yesterday we talked about the spiritual laws and ethics, because I felt it was important, since we had the panel discussion yesterday on spiritual laws and ethics, that we really review that and get it down in our souls. And I after the Psychic Essence Collective, I am the creator of the Sisters of Trinity Divination. So me and my 2 sacred sisters do free readings for Sacred You. And if you come on to Sacred You's website, you can get a free reading on Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. Not sure what time that is Australian time. I think
That
it's
would be
9 a.m.
Thursday
Thursday.
morning.
Yeah,
Somewhere
I
around.
think it's Thursday 9 or 10 a.m. And we do free divination for you at that time on the website for Sacred You.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And so for Sacred You, I host a meetings on Friday evenings, and it's Moon Medicine Circle. So we talk all things around the energetic healing, around cycles, and holistic healing, so with essential oils or crystals or whatever it is that we have in terms of conversations. And so and that is Saturday morning for those of you who are in Australia. And yeah, so like I really enjoy doing that. And so like as I shared, I work with women with anxiety, working with the cycles of using the cycles. And so I have a number of different things on my website. Things are shifting, and so when Carney was talking about the friendship with with technology, I have decided that my website is definitely going to be taking a huge shift, because I'm actually looking at I'm learning to code with the help of AI to be able to like make sure that the coding part's figured out properly. But yeah, so like being able to have being able to host my entire own website and programs, as opposed to using like this program and this program and this program. The goal is within the next 3 years to be able to have only my program, like my website being held and hosted directly, and everything coming through that. So Mercury is moving in. So we're into Mercury shadow, Mercury retrograde shadow right now. So for anybody who is doing the techie things, keep that in mind and be patient as we shift through that 3-week period of direct Mercury retrograde. And then as it moves back into direct, yeah, so just keep that in mind as you're moving through this energy of tech, and especially when it kind of comes in and out. And yeah, so thank you so much everyone for joining us. And yeah, so we'll turn this in. So Tawana, is there anything more that we should add around Sacred You that that we should be inviting people to come and join us? You know, for sure
Sacred
that.
You is free to join. It's free to join, and I believe they're running a special right now, $15 a month to actually be a full-fledged member, meaning having access to the entire village and being able to join tribes. So please come join Sacred You. I call it home. They even put a reel out there where they caught me calling it home. And it is home. It feels like home. And
Thank you.
there's amazing women here.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Tawana. And yeah, so we're going to turn it back over to Christ May, who is going to allow us to be able to like disconnect and say goodbye. And so for all of you, I will join you on the next wisdom circle. somewhere along the ways, and whether it's my own that I'm hosting or joining someone else's. So looking forward to connecting with you. So whenever you're ready to disconnect us, Christ may, we're good to go.